Hey guys, my name is Isabella and today I'm going to be doing quite an extensive video because I have 50 books, well 50 plus books to unhaul. I gave up counting after I reached book 50 because there were just too many. Today I'm going to be unhauling a crap ton of books. I've been trying to record this video for so long because since there's so many books, it just feels like a 30-minute video of me being like, yeah, I'm unhauling this one because I didn't like it. I'm unhauling this one because I didn't like it. You know, it felt a bit repetitive. So I was trying to find a way to make it more interesting, and with a little help from my friend, Jacob from Alchemy Reads, I kind of made it a bit more interesting. Hopefully you guys think so as well. I've divided all of the books into 7 categories and I'm going to go through each category. You'll get it once I start. It's better if I just show you instead of trying to explain it. So without further ado, let's get into the unhaul because it's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a long one. So let's go. The first category is books that I have kept because of nostalgic reasons. These books have either been with me for a very long time or I read them in a time of my life that they just really meant a lot to me. But as time went on, I didn't really keep them because I liked them or because I was going to reread them in a near future. The only reason that I'm really keeping them is because when I see them, it's like, oh, I remember when I read that. The first 2 books in this category are If I Stay and Where She Went, both written by Gail Foreman. I read these so long ago. I don't even remember when I read them. I think I was like in 8th grade or 9th grade or something. I remember that this was like the first book that kind of like blew my mind because I was like, holy crap, oh my god, this is insane. This is like something I've never read before. And I remember that I tried to share it with all of my friends, all of my non-bookish friends, and I just forced them to read it because I was like, this book is so good, you guys have to give it a chance, come on. And eventually they gave in and we all gushed about it, but seeing it now, after reading so many books, I've developed a different sort of taste for books. These aren't really up my alley anymore. I don't see myself picking them up again. The next book in this category is Lara Penelope, written by Andres L. Mateo, and this is the first book that I ever annotated, and that's really the only reason that I kept it, because it's really the first time that I gave myself permission to write in books and to annotate and just write inside of a book. Like, that was such a foreign concept to me and I thought that I would never do it, but with this book I sort of let myself let go and I had a really wonderful experience, and this is basically the reason that I started my annotating journey. But even though it holds that place in my heart, I didn't actually enjoy this book. I read it for college, didn't really like it, didn't really enjoy it. So the only reason I'm keeping it is to see it and be like, you were the beginning. You know, it's not, I don't know, so I'm also getting rid of this one. The next book that I have in this category is The Historian, written by Elizabeth Kostova. Okay, so the story with this one, I can't believe that I started with this category because each of these books have a story with them, so it's basically the longest category. Bear with me. This is the original cover. I bought it on paperback, but I read it so much that it kind of got a bit broken, so my grandmother went to this place where they kind of bound books again, and she made it into a hardcover copy, which is amazing. So there's that reason to keep this book. And also, this is the very first book that I read in my very first book club. I think the only book club that I've ever been a part of was in 10th grade in high school with my favorite English teacher, and he started a book club because I told him to, so that was amazing. And this is the first book that we chose to read. This was also actually the first time that I had ever read a historical fantasy novel, I think, because this has vampires and it studies kind of like Dracula. I read it a really long time ago. I read it like 6+ years ago. I don't really remember it, but I do remember that the experience, like, that was my first real buddy read, and the experience was amazing, honestly. Do I see myself reading this again? Not really, and that's why I'm giving it away. The next book that I have in this category is Emmy and Oliver, written by Robin Benway. I actually read this with my best friend Ale. This was sort of a buddy read because I think we read like 10 chapters every day, and then at the end of the day we discussed the chapters. The only reason that I kept this book is because of the fact that I read it with her, because I actually didn't enjoy this book, and I think we both feel that way because it isn't very memorable and the story isn't that exciting, but I think that we both kept on reading it because we were like dedicated to each other. We made a commitment and we didn't want to let the other one down, so we kind of pushed through. If it weren't for the fact that I was reading it with her, I would have probably just DNF'd this book, to be honest. And that is the only reason that I've kept it for so long, is because I read it with her and it holds a very special place in my heart. But again, do I see myself rereading this? Not really. The next trilogy that I have here is the Fifth Wave trilogy, written by Rick Yancey. I really love the Fifth Wave. The Fifth Wave kind of introduced me to this whole new world of novels that I had no idea existed, and I'm really thankful to it for that. But unfortunately, this is the type of trilogy that just keeps on getting worse with each book. Infinite Sea, it just wasn't it, you know what I mean? And then we read The Last Star and it's like, are you really going to conclude this amazing trilogy with this? It kind of like this trilogy left me wanting so much more, because after such an incredible first book, you're like, oh, it's just gonna keep on getting better. But it didn't. The next series that I have here is the Hush Hush series, written by Becca Fitzpatrick. The first book is Hush Hush, Crescendo, Silence, and the fourth and final book is Finale. Ironically, when I read these, I think these were the first books that I read that involved angels and like fallen angels, and it was like, oh my god. Like, this is such a classic for the teenage me, because this is the type of books that I was into. I was just into like really trashy YA romance novels with a little bit of fantasy and a little bit of action. This is kind of where my reading journey began, and I was a diehard fan of Hush Hush. And oh my god, I forgot the name of the dude. Patch. Oh, I was such a slut for Patch. As you can see, I have a lot of good memories with this series, but if you today asked me what this series is about, it'd be really hard for me to tell you. Like, I'm even surprised that I remember the name of the main protagonist. And even though this does hold, again, a very special place in my heart, I think I've moved on from these types of books, honestly. So I'm also going to be giving these away. The final series in this category is the Beautiful Creatures series, written by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. The first book is Beautiful Creatures, Beautiful Darkness, Beautiful Chaos, Beautiful Redemption. All of my friends, even my friends who didn't like reading, knew what this series was about because everybody was talking about it. Everybody was obsessed with it. It was like amazing, never before seen content, and everybody was just eating it up. Including myself. I was completely obsessed with these books. The first book is amazing, it's wonderful, it gives you so much hope for the rest of the series. And then the other books, when they come out, it's like, really? This is what you're gonna follow up with? Honest to God, I don't remember any of the characters' names. None of them made an impression on me. I don't even remember the story really that well. I know there's like witches maybe, and like vampire. I honestly don't know, but there was a movie adaptation and it wasn't half bad. So there's that. These books marked my elementary school years, and all of my friends know about Beautiful Creatures, and we kind of like bonded over how bad it got in the last book especially, which we were just like, I can't believe the authors decided to do so bad. But yeah, I think it's about time that I said goodbye to these beautiful babies and made space for others. The next category is books that you didn't buy yourself, aka they were a gift or someone gave it to you or something to that extent. What am I saying? The first series that I have in this category is A Song A Song of Ice and Fire, written by George R.R. Martin. My sister gave me the whole box set, and she gave it to me for Christmas like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm not really sure. And back then I was really obsessed with the TV show. I mean, who wasn't, honestly? And when she heard that they were actually booked to TV show adaptation, she was like, oh, you definitely need to read the books, and then you can tell me if they're worth it or how different they are to the TV show and all of those beautiful, wonderful things. I think this is one of the very few cases where I actually prefer the TV show to the books, because to me the books were a bit dense to get through. I used to get to specific character chapters because every chapter is divided by characters, and a lot of the times when I got to a character's chapter I was like, oh no, not again, can I please just skip this, because there were just some characters that I did not care for. So yeah, that kind of hindered my experience while reading A Song of Ice and Fire, but I still really love the TV show. The next two books that I have here were a gift from the same person, and they gave it to me for my birthday. I think it was my 19th birthday, so 2 years ago. And they are The Voyage Out by Virginia Woolf and This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And they actually got this for me because they saw it on my Tumblr and they saw how much I wanted them, so they got them for me, and I read both of them. Unfortunately, I didn't really enjoy them. I thought I would, because Tumblr kind of romanticizes every book ever. They kind of like make it sound like it's this beautiful work of literature, and then when you're actually reading it, it's like not that great. But I still really appreciated these two books, and I'm actually really glad that I got to read them. The last book in this category is Full Metal Alchemist Volume 9, Story and Art by Hiromu Arakawa. This was a gift from one of my very good friends from high school. His name is Hiromi, and he and I share love for a lot of things, mainly Full Metal Alchemist and Kingdom Hearts and Zelda as well. This was the very first manga that I had ever read in my life, so even though this holds a really special place in my heart, I think I'm gonna give it away just because this is volume 9, and now that I'm getting the Full Metal editions, I don't think I'm going to buy the mass market paperbacks of volumes 1 through 8, so my collection is going to be like, you know, not finished, and that's gonna really annoy me. So I think I'm going to give this away, even though this is one of the best gifts that I've ever received. Like, honestly, my favorite types of gifts are the ones that show you that they actually thought about it. Like, they didn't just buy the first thing that they saw, but it's like, oh, I saw this and it reminded me of you. Those are my favorite kinds of gifts, and yeah. This next category is books that I bought because of the hype. The only book that is in this category is Me Before You, written by Jojo Moyes. You've probably either heard about this book, read this book, seen the movie, or heard about the movie. This was all the rave a few years back. Everybody was talking about it, everybody was crying over it, and of course I fell into the hype and I read it, and obviously I cried. You know, I'm a big crier over books. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. Ever since I read it, I haven't really felt the need or the want to read this book again, or ever, honestly. So I'm going to give it to someone who might enjoy it even more than me. The next category is books that I bought because of the cover. And don't lie to yourself, we are all guilty of this, maybe once or more than once in our lives. I'm pretty sure everybody has fallen victim to a beautiful cover, which then turns out to not be the best story. Finding Audrey, written by Sophie Kinsella. All I remember from this book, because I did read it a while back, is that this is about a girl called Audrey, and she always wears sunglasses because she has social anxiety, like really intense social anxiety, and she can't look people in the eye. So this book sort of explores her condition and how she works through it, and it's actually a really good book, but I don't really see myself picking it back up again in the future. The next book that I have in this category is My True Love Gave to Me, written by a lot of authors, but it was edited by Stephanie Perkins, and you can't really, there you go. This is actually the special edition of My True Love Gave to Me, which is a collection of winter stories, you know, surrounding Christmas and whatnot. This has pink sprayed edges, like pink highlighter, and also the cover is so beautiful. Like, how could I resist? But I do have the normal edition, and this edition is actually really hard to read through because obviously you don't want to ruin it or the spine. So you kind of have to read it like this so it doesn't get ruined, which kind of hinders your experience. I honestly prefer the normal edition because you can just open it and you can just read it. But this one you kind of have to read it like this so the spine doesn't get damaged. So I kept it because of the cover, but honestly, the more I see it, the more I don't really care for it. So I think I'm gonna give it away. This next series is definitely the first book that I ever bought just because of the cover. Like, I had absolutely no idea what it was about. I just bought it because the cover was stunning. And that book is Across the Universe, written by Beth Revis. I think this is one of my all-time favorite book covers. The story not so much, but the cover, like, my camera is not doing it justice right now, but this is just a really beautiful book cover. It's like this mixture of purples and pinks and the silhouettes. Oh my god, it's really beautiful. And then the second book is called A Million Suns, and it's just as beautiful. Like, the color palettes of these books are brilliant. The graphic designer for these covers did a wonderful job. But for some reason, the graphic designer changed for the third book, and they came out with this. I don't, like, why would you ever go from this to this? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's sci-fi, and it's like this girl, I don't even remember what it's about. Like, that's how forgettable it was. Oh my god, the spines don't even match. That's a crime right there. Girl Against the Universe, written by Paula Stokes. To be honest, I don't really remember anything about this book, but I do remember that I bought it because I really loved the color palette and I thought it looked really cool, but I don't really remember what it was about. Exit Pursued by a Bear, written by E.K. Johnston, and the only thing that I remember is that when I was reading it, I actually really enjoyed it. It's like this cheerleading camp. This situation happens where one of the girls gets raped. She doesn't really remember what happened, so throughout the book she's trying to, like, remember, and she goes back to the camp and she starts getting all of these flashbacks. It's not a contemporary fun book to read. It's actually a very serious topic, and it deals with PTSD, and it's a very complicated book to read, honestly, but I really loved it. And I feel like this is the first book that I ever read that dealt with a serious topic. Before this one, I only read contemporaries that were like, oh, summer romance, oh, I need to choose between two boys. But then this was like, oh, I got raped and I have PTSD. So yes. Next up is probably the most disappointing read that I had last year, and that was Emergency Contact, written by Mary H.K. Choi. This is a beautiful cover, and it held so much promise. I thought it was going to be amazing. All I felt while reading this book was boredom, and kind of like, I just kept on thinking, when is it going to actually start? Because it was just like, nothing really happened and it was so boring, but the cover was so beautiful, so I was so upset. Next up we have Tonight the Streets Are Ours, written by Layla Sales. As you can see, the cover is beautiful. The story, not so much. And the last book that I have in this category is Cruel Beauty, written by Rosamund Hodge. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's not my favorite Beauty and the Beast retelling, but the cover is really beautiful. But I did expect a little bit more of this. I've kept this book for so long because of the cover and because of the fact that it really matches, like, the spine is beautiful, and I put it in my red shelf up there because I have a rainbow, where is it? There, I have a rainbow shelf in the center, and this looked really beautiful in my red shelf, but I think it's kind of time to just let this book go and give it to someone that will hopefully enjoy it more than I did. The next category is series that I won't be completing, and for this one I only have one series, the Red Queen Quartet series, whatever, you know. First book is Red Queen, second one is Glass Sword, third one is King's Cage, which I read all three of these. This one, I barely got through it. I was like, oh my god, this is so long. This is so unnecessarily long. But I was just like, no, I'm not going to DNF this. I need to push through. And then when I got to Warstorm and I saw the sheer size of this cement block, I was like, I am not going to put myself through this. This is inhumane. Why would I ever read a book that I am 0% interested in just because I don't want to DNF it? You know what I mean? I'm not going to be finishing the Red Queen series, which is unfortunate because I actually bought the whole box set thinking that I was going to love it and that it was going to become one of my new favorite series, but I was very deeply incorrect. This next category is books that I bought because of the author. These authors have either come out with previous books that I really liked, so they're just like an instant buy when they come out with a new book, or there's someone that I love as a person and I really wanted to support them in their book. The first book that I have here is Genuine Fraud, written by E. Lockhart, and listen, this was such a disappointment, honestly, because I read We Were Liars, which is the first E. Lockhart book that I have ever read, and I absolutely adored that book. So when I saw that they were coming out with a brand new book, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be just as amazing, this is going to be wonderful, it's going to blow my mind. And it was one of the most boring books that I read last year. It was really such a waste of time. The only reason that I kept it is because it's autographed and because I kind of like the cover, but I need to say goodbye to this because every time I see it, it's like, oh! The next book in this category is Meet Cute, with a bunch of authors, but compiled by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and Jennifer L. Armentrout is the author of one of my all-time favorite series, which is the Lux series. I'm kind of realizing that not all of her books are my cup of tea. Just because one of her series are my favorite doesn't mean that all of her series are going to be my favorite. And I learned that the hard way, believe me. This is kind of like another compilation of short stories, really like stories of meet cutes, literally like insta love and stuff like that. And you know, conceptually it sounded like something that I would really like and really enjoy and just have like a good old time reading, but I was just so wrong. I was so wrong. There's Someone Inside Your House, written by Stephanie Perkins. Stephanie Perkins wrote the Anna and the French Kiss trilogy, and because of that, I thought that Stephanie Perkins was one of my all-time favorite authors. And then I read this one, and it's like, damn, this book was so bad. This is like a mystery crime novel where like there's a murder, there's like this series of murders and we're trying to figure out who it is, and it's like super suspenseful, or it's supposed to be suspenseful, but it's just really not. It's just really like a failed attempt at Scream. Just thinking about it, like you'd think because it's so short I'd have no problem reading this, but I took like 3 weeks to read this book because it was so boring. And before I go off on a tangent, I'm gonna put this down. Next up, I have Landline, written by Rainbow Rowell. Rainbow Rowell wrote one of my all-time favorite books, which is Fangirl, and because of that book, I thought that all of her subsequent books I would fall in love with. That wasn't true. I did enjoy Landline. When I read it, I really loved it, but I don't think so. I don't think I love it anymore, and I don't know, like just thinking back on it, is it really that great? I don't think so. This is like about a, there's this landline, this phone, and the main character picks it up, and somehow she travels through time, and she gets a chance to save her marriage and her kids and whatever. It's like, the concept is there, but did she deliver? I don't think so. And the last set of books that I have in this category is girl online, girl going on tour, and girl going solo, all written or ghost written by Zoe Sugg. I was the biggest Zoella fan. She was like my role model. She was everything to me. I used to watch all of her videos and all of her vlogs every single day. She literally was like my role model for everything. And so when she decided to write these books, I was like, oh my god, yay! But then I actually read them. Even though she didn't write them, they're still so bad. God, I'm not even gonna talk about these books. I feel like nobody wants to listen to me kind of trash talk these books, but just know that I had so many expectations because of course I have been loving Zoe for years and years, but these books weren't it, and the only reason that I've kept them for so long is because it's Zoe and I thought I loved her, you know, like the way that you love other YouTubers that you grow up watching. But I don't think that's the case anymore. So I kind of feel relief by saying that I'm going to be getting rid of these books. So there's that. And the last category that I have for you guys is books that I changed my mind about. So these are books that when I read them, I probably loved them or just really cherished and really enjoyed reading. But the more that time went on, I just changed my mind about them. I just really didn't care for them. I sort of forgot what they were about. They didn't really leave a big enough impact for me to really care for them. That's what this category is about, and let's just get into them because this is actually the biggest category of this whole video, so let's just get to it. First book is My Heart and Other Black Holes, written by Jasmine Wanga. Don't remember what it's about. Tell Me 3 Things, written by Julie Buxbaum. Every Last Word, written by Tamara Ireland Stone. Again, no idea what it's about. This next set of books are all by the same author, and I know that this author is a lot of people's favorite. I used to be a huge stan of this author, but as the time went on, I sort of realized that his books are not that great. They're not really memorable. They're just very basic. Yeah, so the author that I'm talking about is John Green, and his whole collection of books, which include An Abundance of Catherines, The Fault in Our Stars, you know, the most famous book, The Fault in Our Stars Collector's Edition, Looking for Alaska, Let It Snow, Will Grayson, Paper Towns, and his most recent book, Turtles All the Way Down. This is also a signed copy, so it feels a bit bad to give it away, but I just didn't really enjoy it. I think John Green is just not the author for me anymore. I do remember that I loved him very much, and I loved every single one of his books. I've outgrown that phase in my life, so this is me saying goodbye to this man and his books. Forever, hopefully. This next series I used to love, but my mind changed. Well, of course, that's what this category is about. The Selection series, written by Kiera Cass. The Selection, The Elite, The One, The Heir, which is probably the cutest cover of all of them, and finally The Crown. When I first read these books, I was really, like, I digged this series. I thought it was unique. I thought it was fantastic. I had never read anything like it. I was like, oh my god, this totally changed my life. But now that I've read more books, I know that I don't regret reading these books, but I definitely won't be rereading them or anything like crazy or anything. So, oh yeah, and also a collection of 2 stories, which is called The Selection Stories, The Prince and the Guard, also written by Kiera Cass. Next up we have My Life Next Door, The Boy Most Likely To, and What I Thought Was True, all written by Huntley Fitzpatrick. These are like your, you know, your usual contemporary summer romance. Like, you can tell from the covers that they're just like cute summer romances, drama. You know, it's like, there's nothing really special about these books. I remember that everyone on BookTube was going crazy because of the spines, because they all match and they look really cool in your bookshelf, but apart from that, they don't really add anything of value To me, that's my opinion. Don't go crazy. If you love these books, that's your prerogative, sweetie. On the Fence, The Distance Between Us, and The Fill-In Boyfriend, all written by Casey West. Again, these are your typical romance, summer romance, contemporary novels. They're just like really basic. They're really cute. Like if you just want like a really cute, easy read in a day, literally. It's like they're so easy to read and they're so fun. They're so cute. They're just not for me anymore. But I do remember that I loved these books back in the day. Just not anymore. And that's okay. We all have different tastes. That's what's so amazing. We're all different. These next 3 books are actually classics, and one of these I know that a lot of people love, so hopefully you won't lynch me for saying this, but I'm going to be unhauling The Perks of Being a Wallflower, written by Stephen Chbosky. I read this so long ago, and I don't know, it was an okay book, I guess. And the movie was really beautiful. This book was okay. I honestly don't really remember anything. And it's just, I don't really like this edition either. Like, to be honest, the main reason that I'm getting rid of this is because I don't like this edition. It's just so small. No other book that I have has the same height as this, so it's just kind of like the odd one out, and it kind of ruins my aesthetic. So since I don't really have like an emotional connection to this book, I don't feel too bad getting rid of it. So To Kill a Mockingbird, written by Harper Lee, and The Great Gatsby, written by F. Scott Fitzgerald, 2 classics that I'm just not really interested anymore in. I did read them, but I don't see myself picking them up again, so why keep them? When Dibble Met Rishi, written by Sandhya Menon. Don't really remember what this is about. It didn't really leave an impression. And the last 2 books in this category are Open Road Summer and The Start of Me and You, written by Emery Lord. These again are your typical romance, summer romance, cutesy, contemporary novels. Didn't really leave an impact on me. Yeah. Those are all of the books that I am unhauling. It feels so good to be getting these books out of my bookshelves because honestly they've just been taking up so much space, and when I look at them they don't really bring me happiness, so I feel so relieved to be finally getting rid of these books. For those of you wondering, these books I'm not just gonna throw them in the trash. I'm going to be giving them to people who will hopefully enjoy them more than I did, which is always a relief. You know, you don't want to just get rid of books, but you want to give them to someone who will appreciate it as much as you did, or maybe even more. Those are all the books that I am unhauling. I hope you guys enjoyed this unhaul and it wasn't completely boring. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!